Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I want to show you how to use Angelina fibers. I had mentioned them a couple of times when we were working on these blocks here for the 12 Days of Christmas quilt blocks, and I wanted to show you how I'm going to use them to embellish one of the quilt blocks in that series. Yeah, I'm going to work on the house block, and I want to make the snowy roof kind of shiny, so I'm going to use some Angelina fibers. Now this is a package that I bought at an international quilt show back probably around 2010, so I've had this a long time, and this package is by Embellishment Village. I don't know if they're still in business. I really didn't look them up before I came down here to the studio to work on this, but you can see this has several different colors in this package. And I bought this because I was working on a seascape quilt. Not so much kind of an under the sea type deal. It was sea turtles swimming in the ocean is what I was doing. So I bought this for that, and wound up using a different package of fibers than this. So I have this left over. So what I want to do is to use the white in here for the snow. And you can use all of these together. You can mix them up and create different colors. So, you know, you could put the blue and the green together. You can add white to any of these and kind of change the hue of them, the color of them a little bit. So right now, what you really need to do this, you need the fibers, you need 2 pieces of paper to press them through, and you need your iron. And set this to a silk setting if you have that on there. Now my iron does not have a silk setting, so I'm going to have to guess as to what that's going to be. Now this is going to be a small piece of, for coverage I don't need a really big piece, so I'm just going to use a little bit of these fibers, and I'm just going to pull them apart if I can get them to loosen here. And what I want to do is make a sheet, like a sheet of fabric. So I'm just going to kind of tug on those until I can get a sheet that will be big enough to cover. And the paper that I'm using, this is the backing from Fusible Web. It's release paper. So if you have like Wonder Under and you're using the fusible, if you can, especially if you're covering big chunks of fabric, like this is like 12 or 14 inches square, I don't know exactly. So what I did is I got a big piece of Fusible Web and ironed it to the back of the fabric, and then I cut the fabric out, instead of what I did with these blocks here is I traced the pattern onto the paper side of the Fusible Web and then cut out the pattern and then fuse it to the paper. So it's a little different process. So what I want is to get enough fibers here to cover, to make a sheet of Angelina that will cover this piece. And then I will cut it out and adhere it. And the way I'm going to adhere it is I'm just going to sew it. Now I have tried before adhering it by fusing on Fusible Web to the back of the sheet that I made, but the sticky glue just came through the Angelina because there's spaces between this, and so it was wound up being sticky on both sides, and so I don't like that look, and so I don't do it that way anymore. So, and it has been a while since I've played with Angelina, so we'll see how this goes. And my iron, I think I mentioned, does not have a silk setting, so I am guessing on what that setting needs to be. So I know my hottest setting is cotton, and should be cotton anyway, or linen. So I don't have it up that high. I've got it down, I've got it down lower where it tells me where I can use steam on here. So I've got it down below that setting. So, okay, that looks like it'll work. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'm just gonna transfer that on because it's all sticking to my fabric. Now the instructions say you can use any kind of paper. You can use tissue paper, and it should not stick to anything other than itself. So it shouldn't stick to whatever kind of paper you're using. So I'm just going to give this a try. I got 2 sheets here. You could put this on 1 sheet and fold it over. And actually, I'm going to press this paper down, smooth that out a little bit. And we'll see how this works. I need to let that iron heat up just a little bit more. Okay. So make your sheet of Angelina as big as you need it. Cover it with another sheet. Make sure your iron is hot. And then we're going to press. And it's okay if you slide your iron over it. That's not going to hurt anything. Gives it kind of a yellow tint. This has a little bit of gold in it, so some gold and some pink. So there I have my sheet of Angelina. It didn't take long at all. And so here's kind of the look it's going to give. It's going to give that a kind of a shiny, shimmery look. And I am going to trim this out. Okay, I have cut out the pattern of the roof, and so I'm going to go ahead and lay that Angelina on top of it, and then I'm going to cut out the pattern. Now this doesn't have to be exact. In fact, I'm going to probably leave a little bit of room here to have some overlap here. Let me get a couple pins and pin this on. Now this is just drawn out on a piece of sketchbook paper, and you can use notebook paper, whatever you have. Just trace it out on something, and it cuts real easy. And these are fabric scissors. You could probably use paper scissors on these too. And it's so shiny, it's a little bit hard to see. When the light hits it, it reflects the light really well. So I'll just go all the way around. The fiber's a little bit thinner down here than they are on this side there. Keep following your outline on your pattern. And you can get real close, you can do far away with your cutting, however you want it to look. Okay, so here are my scraps there. I'll put them aside, might be able to use them for something else. And here we go. Now I might want to cut out this chimney piece because that would look a little strange there. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to get pretty close to that. So and just cut straight across. And just treat this like another piece of fabric, except like I said earlier, you probably don't want to use a piece of fusible web on this because the glue may come through the fusible. But that's what it's going to look like. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple pins in it. And I'm just going to sew this down. I'm going to try and treat this as one when I go with my blanket stitch around here, or my decorative stitch, whatever I decide to use. But there we go. Now we have some shimmery Angelina on this block. I don't know if you could see that very well. But it is shimmery. It's very shiny. It's real pretty. And I think that'll look really cute on this block. So if you want to try Angelina, this is about all you have to do. You just press it between two sheets of paper and make your sheet. Blend your colors together if you want to. And this little puff of Angelina will make quite a few sheets of fabric. And go ahead and save your scraps, because you may find things that you want to use with those. Like this may be good to do the flame on this candle. See how that looks. Probably yellow would be better if I had it, but I don't have yellow. But if you want something shimmery, shiny, try some Angelina fibers and see how they turn out for you. Okay, I'm getting ready to stitch on this block here, and I have a blanket stitch set on my machine, and I have it 3 millimeters wide, and I have it set at 3.0 for the width of the stitch, and that is right about here. This is the 3.0, and the space in between I have it set at 2.0. So this should give me the look that I'm going for. And I did a test run. I started out at 4.0 up here and 2.5, and then I dropped it to 3.5 and 3, and then 2.5, and I dropped the stitch length to 2.0. So this is giving me the look that I want where I have it set now. So it's 3.0 on the stitch width and 2.0 on the stitch length. And first I'm going to do is to tack down the Angelina with this blanket stitch, and then I'll go ahead and do the rest of the applique here. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with my foot down. And I am using the foot pedal on this machine today because I'm going to be doing a lot of stopping and starting because of the decorative stitch. So we'll see how this goes. And I'm using a white thread. And it's going really well. And I'm going to switch this to stop with the needle down. Now I'm trying to get used to all the differences in this machine and my 1591. The foot lever is to the side. I'm used to reaching around to the back and flipping it up in with my left hand, so it'll take me a little while to get used to it. I don't think it'll be bad. Okay, now I'm getting to the curvy part, so take my time going around the corners and adjusting the fabric as I need to. if you want to do a decorative stitch, of course you can do whatever stitch you have on your machine. I haven't tried out all the stitches here on this machine yet. I've only done the straight stitch and this blanket stitch so far. Of course, I've only had this machine a few days, so. And I am turning my fabric when my needle is on the outside of the applique instead of on the inside. And instead of stitching right on the edge of the Angelina, because this Angelina is going over the edge of the applique in places. And so I'm stitching along the applique instead of along the edge of the Angelina, because I think that will hold better. It'll hold both pieces down that way instead of just the one. Now the fusible web should be pretty much all it needs to hold it down, and the quilting that I'll put on it. But I still like to do a little extra on the edges, and you can do just a straight stitch along the edge if you want. I find that it tends to want to kind of roll up though, especially if I do it while I'm quilting. So that isn't my favorite method, but it's obviously an option. And the color thread you choose for this is also just personal preference, what you want. I considered using black because that would show up really well, but I kind of want to keep this more towards the white since the background is white of most of the blocks, not on this one. This one has a print background, but the other blocks are all white. And this is just an all-purpose thread. It's not anything special. It's not a rayon. It's not a metallic. It's just the regular polyester all-purpose thread. And you could use cotton too if you've got it. I don't happen to have any cotton at the moment. Well, I guess I do. I have my big spools for my quilting machine, and I can always use my spool holder, my extended spool holder to use those, but I just didn't even think about it until right now. So just go ahead with the all-purpose thread. I think it'll be fine. I'm getting to where I'm having a pretty good curve here. And I'm trying to get so that the stitch that goes into the applique is at a right angle to the cut edge of that applique. So to do that, I have to turn the fabric. And I like this clear foot because I can see the edge of the applique before my needle gets to it. So that's why I chose that foot as opposed to the metal foot. And this is one that has a groove underneath it, so that if I wanted to do like a satin stitch or any other stitch that is kind of dense, this machine would go over it real easily with that foot on it, because that groove would allow those stitches to run through that real smoothly. I don't know how much embellishment I'm going to do on the rest of these blocks because I just really don't have time to do a lot, especially if I want to get this quilt done in time for Christmas. Okay, now I'm going to change my stitch. I'm going to go back to just a straight stitch, and I'm going to lock this stitch, which is okay. So here we go. You can't hardly see that stitching in there, but there is a blanket stitch in there, and that'll hold that Angelina down. There's no adhesive on here, there's no fusible web, so there's no glue coming through, which is one of the problems I've had with Angelina in the past. So I think this will work, and I kind of like that. Okay, so I kind of like that look. It's kind of shimmery, and I really don't know that I'm catching that on the screen, but it's shimmery, and it's real pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust my stitch and then go around the chimney and the rest of the pieces in the block, and I'll show you what that looks like when I get done. Okay, here's the completed block, and I have all of the stitching around all of the pieces, and I think this is all I'm going to do this block until I get the quilt top put together and quilted, because I'm going to put like a button for the doorknob, but I don't want to quilt around that on my machine. So anything that I want to do that would be kind of a dimensional, three-dimensional embellishment, I'll do that after the top is quilted. So anyway, here is the front of the block, and there's the back. There's no puckering, so this machine does really well with the decorative stitch, and hopefully yours will too. And I think with the extra amount of weight that a fusible web gives your fabric, I really don't think you'll have much difficulty, unless you know that's something that your sewing machine doesn't like to do anyway, like a decorative stitch around applique. So I think you'll be okay with that. So anyway, there we go. There's the Angelina on the roof of the house, and I've got all of the blanket stitch in, and this block is done and ready to be put in the quilt. So now I just have 11 more blocks to go, and this quilt will be ready to put together. So I hope you've enjoyed this series of applique blocks, and when I get mine all put together, I will show you the finished top. That may take me a while, but this has been fun. I've enjoyed it, and I hope you have too. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my newest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.